The October 6th episode of General Hospital will unfold like a tightly wound storm within the walls of the Quartermain estate, where grief, greed, and old grudges erupt in spectacular fashion. The death of Monica Quartermain leaves not only a void in the family but a battlefield of inheritance, resentment, and deceit that exposes the cracks in the dynasty she once held together. As family members and opportunists gather beneath the solemn pretense of mourning, what should have been a farewell becomes a crucible of accusation and betrayal, and no one will emerge unscathed. The first fissure comes when Tracy, hardened by decades of family conflict, confronts Martin in a fiery exchange. Their rivalry, long simmering beneath polite disdain, now explodes in the open. Martin insists that Tracy has gone too far, that her ruthless actions at the church have drawn a lawsuit that could tarnish her name and the Quartermain legacy. But Tracy, ever defiant, meets the accusation with icy composure, convinced that Martin's legal threats are little more than empty theatrics. To her, Martin is a man who hides behind documents and technicalities, a manipulator pretending to be moral. But beneath her arrogance lies the uneasy awareness that Martin has always been more dangerous than she admits, a man who never forgets a slight and always exacts payment when the time is right. The tension escalates when Drew arrives, seeking to mourn Monica's death. His grief is genuine, but Tracy interprets his presence as opportunism, believing he has come to exploit the tragedy for sympathy or gain. Without hesitation, she orders him to leave. When he resists, she pushes him out, literally, and the symbolic act becomes the perfect metaphor for how the Quartermains have treated Drew for years. His fury ignites instantly. For Drew, Monica's funeral should have been a moment of belonging, a chance to honor the woman who once treated him as family. Instead, he finds himself cast out of her final farewell, humiliated in front of those who never truly accepted him. Martin seizes upon the chaos, hinting that Drew could sue for assault. But Tracy brushes off the suggestion with her trademark disdain, convinced that Drew's anger will fade like all his previous outbursts. To her, Drew is a man full of noise and no power, a soldier without an army. But Martin sees something else entirely, an opportunity. He senses that Drew's humiliation can be weaponized, that his bitterness can become the perfect spark to fuel Martin's quiet vendetta against Tracy. Then comes the reading of Monica's will, and with it, the detonation of every hidden resentment. As the lawyer unfolds Monica's final words, silence falls across the room, broken only by the sound of disappointment settling over those who had come expecting riches. Tracy receives nothing of value, only a symbolic jar of pickle lila, as though Monica were mocking her greed from beyond the grave. Drew, once again, is left with nothing, a ghost among the living, erased from the family's future just as surely as he was excluded from their present. The humiliation is complete. But the real shock comes when Monica's mansion, the very heart of the Quartermain Empire, is left not to Michael, as everyone assumed, but to Veronica Ronnie Bard, an outsider with only a tenuous connection to the family. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Tracy's face drains of color as she realizes that something is terribly wrong. This isn't Monica's style, not the Monica she knew. Martin's expression, however, tells another story. Behind the mask of professionalism, there's a flicker of satisfaction. He's engineered this outcome with surgical precision, using Ronnie as the perfect instrument of revenge. To the untrained eye, Martin's triumph appears as luck or coincidence. But beneath the surface, his plan is intricate and coldly logical. His past grievances with Tracy. Every insult, every dismissal, every calculated humiliation, have led to this moment. By ensuring Ronnie inherits the mansion, Martin delivers a wound deeper than any lawsuit could inflict. He knows the mansion isn't just a building to Tracy, it's the symbol of power, the monument to her family's name. Taking it from her means taking away her identity. Meanwhile, Drew's rage becomes the echo of Martin's manipulation. Convinced that the will's outcome is another sign that he'll never belong, Drew spirals into anger, talking of lawsuits and justice, desperate to prove that he matters. Martin feeds him quiet encouragement, planting the seeds of vengeance under the guise of support. He plays the role of ally, but his true aim is chaos, to turn Drew's fury into a weapon that distracts everyone while his own scheme unfolds unchecked. Tracy, humiliated and seething, refuses to let the matter rest. Her pride demands retribution, but her instincts tell her she's been played. She begins to suspect that Monica's will was altered, that the hand guiding this betrayal was not her late cousin's but Martin's. Yet even as she begins to piece together the truth, she is trapped by appearances. If she contests the will, she risks looking greedy and vindictive. If she stays silent, she loses everything. For once in her life, Tracy Quartermaine is cornered, and the realization terrifies her more than she'll ever admit. As for Ronnie, she becomes an unwilling pawn in a game she barely understands. To the outside world, she's the sudden heiress of a legendary estate. But behind closed doors, whispers spread that she's merely the face of Martin's revenge, a proxy meant to humiliate Tracy and fracture the family. The mansion, now hers in name, becomes a curse rather than a gift, drawing suspicion, resentment, and perhaps even danger. By the time the dust settles, the Quartermaine family is in disarray. Monica's death was supposed to unite them in grief, but instead, it exposes every festering wound that's been buried under years of pretense. Drew is angrier than ever, Tracy is plotting retaliation, and Martin stands at the center, quietly savoring the ruin he's created. But even he doesn't realize how unstable his triumph is. The truth behind the will can't stay hidden forever, and when it comes out, as it always does in Port Charles, the fallout will be devastating. For now, though, the illusion holds. Tracy's world has been reduced to a jar of pickles and a broken legacy. Drew is left outside in the rain, furious and powerless. And Martin, for the first time in years, feels victorious, unaware that his revenge has set in motion a chain of events that could destroy them all. In the Quartermaine family, no victory lasts long, and every secret eventually demands its price. General Hospital * fans can expect that Monica's will is not the end of the story, but the beginning of a darker chapter, one where old alliances crumble, revenge begets revenge, and even the dead seem to have their final say.